Warm welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. This is a special episode, a book review. I'm very happy to have Sai Cherukuri as my guest today. Warm welcome, Sai. Any welcome words before I go ahead with your introduction?
Thank you, Ravi. It's been, a pleasure for me to be on this podcast. That's all I could say now, but thank you again.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Sai. So for the audience, Sai Cherukuri is an IT program manager, is into DevSecOps and cloud transformation and PaaS automation lead. Sai is a results-driven IT program manager with over 2 decades of experience leading high-impact IT modernization, automation, and cloud transformation initiatives across US federal agencies and the IRS. He's passionate about streamlining operations, enhancing security, and driving financial efficiency through DevSecOps, CI/CD automation, and finance operations. He's a published author, Amazon best-selling author. I think there are 4 books I can read. One is Securing the CI/CD Pipeline Best Practices for DevSecOps, and the IAC Playbook, Automate, Optimize, Dominate, FinOps, A Beginner's Guide, AI-powered IT automation strategic enterprise playbook. And there's a new book that we're going to actually talk about today. Sai also is an innovation and is actually applied for IP for patent trademark for a mathematical model measuring organizational maturity in cloud cost optimization. So that's about your intro, Sai. Coming to this particular special episode, Sai, the overall goal and objective is to empower technology professionals with practical insights, strategies, and real-world experiences drawn from your book, Empowering the Future of Infrastructure with Code, that demystify infrastructure as code IAC, enabling them to confidently build, scale, and secure automated cloud infrastructure. We got 3 themes, Sai, for this particular book review podcast. One is on foundations of infrastructure as code. The second one is on security, compliance, and policy as code. And the last one on enterprise-grade automation. So, Sai, let's dive into the book review. The first question is on how has infrastructure as code evolved over time, and why it is considered a non-negotiable in today's cloud-first world, Sai?
Wonderful, Ravi. First of all, at the outset, I think the themes that you outlined, the 3 themes, are fantastic. And, the first question, you actually nailed it right away there. So let's rewind a little bit, before we dive deep into this. See, infrastructure used to be manual. Back in those days, I still remember, it's very vivid in my mind. So I remember racking the servers, then manually uploading the software. If you remember those, we have the thin 5-quarter floppy disks, I think, and later we have little, smaller floppy disks. And of course, then it became with a CD, and now, there are different ways we can do the software update and patching. All these things were done by hand back then. Then it was, prone for errors, time consuming,
Yeah.
and next to impossible to scale. These are some things that I have faced. But then came virtualization. Then eventually, of course, today we have this cloud, right? And that is the shift that came with a huge demand, absolutely huge demand. We need to, match with the speed of the developers, the way release the code. We need to scale the infrastructure and match their speed. That's where the infrastructure as a code is a game changer now. Because if you see really this, instead of manual work, what happens is we started defining our infrastructure in scripts. Usually it is like, we have this shell scripts and some tools like Chef and Puppet, right? So, but now fast forward it to today, we are we have declarative tools like Terraform, and also this AWS CloudFormation that can spin up production grade environments in minutes. Can you imagine? This is the absolute speed that we are working in today's cloud first environment. Speed and consistency are absolutely important. the way the business is going, it is going at a lightning speed, and ISE gives us both the speed and the consistency, and it basically it lets us version control our infrastructure. Earlier, it was a little difficult, but now it actually it helps us version control the infrastructure. Then, before I even deploy it, it helps me peer review my infrastructure and I have an extra pair of eyes who's watching that particular infrastructure. I peer review deployed through pipelines. This is very important. Now, this CI/CD pipelines come into play and rebuild it in different sites. This disaster recovery is also very important, right? So failover is very important, and it helps us replicate this infrastructure, for various reasons. If you want to monitor the traffic, you want to have as a disaster recovery plan, backup plan, things like that. It helps us replicate that infrastructure in minutes. And that's where in my book, the current book, I'm actually talking about some of the scenarios where I help the user community, especially some of the gigs they want to try some code, especially trying with Terraform. I do have my GitHub open. There is a live code that I have put, and somebody wants to, it's like a sandbox, Ravi.
Yeah. Sure.
That's where to answer response to your first question, that's where ISE has become very critical, and there is no replacement.
Perfect. Thank you, Sai. You touched upon the Terraform, and it's known as the preferred tool as such. So, what according to you makes it so effective, and how can teams start the IAC journey with confidence, Sai?
Absolutely, Ravi. I'm like very excited with Terraform because that's the bread and butter for me, and I have worked on that particular environment quite a bit and many years, and that's where the core strength lies. And I am pretty excited with that because Terraform really stands out because it is flexible, very flexible, and it is very simple to use. It's like cloud agnostic, I would say.
Right.
The reason why I'm saying cloud agnostic is, whether you're using AWS or Azure or GCP or even services like GitHub or Datadog, you can manage everything from a single language and one CLI. That's very powerful, and I know it's play and apply workflow is also very important. Is also a major win for that Terraform. Terraform, it shows you exactly what changes are going to happen. It gives you an insight into what exactly you're going to change, and before you click the button to go to the next stage, you get an insight, right? You get an idea, and you don't want to take risk if something is not aligned properly or not aligned with your vision. And this actually builds the confidence, and especially in the enterprise settings, because at federal government I deal with so many sophisticated systems, and they have its own chain reaction, right? When we make this infrastructure change, it has its own ripple effect. Of course, we do the impact analysis and all these things. We do have that blueprint in front of us, but before we hit that, we get a glimpse of it. In my book, actually, I walk them through onboarding blueprints, and also that shows you how to build trust in your pipeline. That's very important because this once you have these CI/CD pipelines, now this pipeline can be built on GitLab, or there are many tools, right? So based on the organizational needs and requirements, they do have some tools that they want to adopt and settle. So I introduce code reviews in my Git repository repos. I have put some repos where the team members are interested. It's an open repo. They can play and they can contribute and see how this Terraform really helps them, in scaling up certain things or planning the activities. Once you get hooked to that, you start loving it. And I'm just talking about Terraform because that's where I have worked. It's not that there are other tools also at our disposal to play, and they may match with Terraform as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sai. Thank you so much. So, I think you actually laid a solid foundation for infrastructure as code by answering these two questions in depth. Moving to theme
Yeah.
2 on security, compliance, and policy as code. Sai, what is policy as code, and how does it help enforce security and compliance at scale in the cloud environments?
Right. That's a good question, policy as a code, because, Ravi, nowadays there are so much of, things are coming up at a lightning speed, and sometimes it is very difficult to keep up with the pace that we are growing. Policy as a code and security as a code, there are so many things that are coming up in the industry, and it is very important. So, policy as a code, that's a very good question, Ravi. I'm glad that you asked. The very policy as a code, the answer is just lying there in that word. So traditionally, we have so many policies that we need to follow, right? So it could be a security policy, it could be design policy, it could whatever designing standards or coding standards or whatever policies that we want to adhere to. So policy as a code basically is a way to codify or to encode security and compliance rules in the form of a code. Now, you don't have a person to check whether the piece of software or the piece of code that has been developed is aligned with the security standards. It could be NIST or FedRAMP or any statutory requirements. It could be, right? So
Right.
what happens is these specific requirements are taken and they are translated in the form of a code, and they are run into scripts, and they are put into in the form of a script. So we don't need to do that. When probably the system, when we are in a deep sleep in the night, the system can do the scanning and make sure that the policies are adhered to it, and there is no error to it. Of course, as long as the policies and the procedures are being updated, we need to keep in pace and make sure that we update the code accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a game changer, I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sai.
Sure, Ravi.
I think moving on, how can organizations detect drift, embed security into their pipelines, and ensure governance across multiple cloud platforms, Sai?
Wonderful. Drift is a very important aspect. Ravi, I'm glad that you asked, because, my next book actually on drift remediation and drift detection and remediation. How I have explained, in fact, on my blog, there is a nice article I have written on drift management. Drift detection and remediation with a normal day-to-day example that we go through, so that users understand what exactly is drift. Sometimes these are very complex topics sometimes, but it's easy to understand, and implementation is very important. So to answer your specific thing, what is drift? Drift detection is very critical, say, especially in Terraform. As we have the blueprint of our infrastructure, and we use that blueprint and go forward. But sometimes, for various reasons, there could be some delta into our original blueprint versus what exactly is there. So there is some drift from what you see. For example, I see the beautiful background that books you have. So many books, right? If you order the books, if you sequence the books and generate and put them in by genre, the year of publication, the subject, and things like that, right? So somebody is constantly borrowing the books from you, and you need to, when they return the books back, you need to put it back in the rack.
Yeah.
What if the books don't go into that rack? See, your original plan versus the delta, there is some, you have the whole plan is drifted a little bit.
Yeah.
Once the drift happens and it is not detected upfront, it's going to cost the enterprise quite a bit, because this is all cloud computing is every single step that we take is tied with finance. The FinOps come into place very well. This pipeline security should be embedded early. And that's when the governance across cloud is a tough one, and it's not that it's not possible to do, and that's it's very common to drift away from the initial config that we have. And somebody wants to do some it could happen at any level, Vijay. It's not just with the developers level. The drift could happen anywhere.
Sure.
So that is a very important aspect to keep in mind.
Sure, Sai. Thank you. I
Sure,
think
sure.
moving to the last theme on enterprise-grade automation and resilience. According to you, Sai, how are enterprises using IAC to build high availability, fault-tolerant infrastructure aligned with business continuity?
Wonderful, Ravi. In fact, last year or before last year, I think we had a very good exercise on this, because some of these applications are we do have filing season sometimes, and the load is quite heavy on the system, right? So what we do is, with especially like I said, with this IAC, it helps us replicate the whole infrastructure in minutes. So we do have DR, disaster recovery sites. And what happens is, when for some reason we have the main site down, in minutes the DR sites is kicked in, and the whole traffic is moved from the main site to the DR site, where it will the front end user, as you and me, if we are using the application to do some of our activities, we don't know what is happening behind. And that is the level of comfort that we have today with this ISE playing a dominant role, where, the disaster recovery becomes a cakewalk, I would say. The sense, but we do need to have plan.
Yeah.
And to have this replicate, of course, in the beginning, we need to have a clear DR plan, disaster recovery plan. And once we have this, and it's all like, script based, right? So we need to make sure that we write the script well. Earlier we used to write that in shell script, but now there's a lot of advanced tools. And in my book, actually, I've given some examples how to do this DR recovery immediately when there is a failover. Those are some things that happens. We never know. Example I could give is my from my experience. We do have a DR built. We have a couple of data centers spread across in US, and those things are not publicly available, right? The user, the front, they would not know. So we did come across a situation where in the main site was down because of various things, and immediately the backup system triggered in with absolutely no lacking time, Ravi. So to that extent, some of the examples that I have given in my GitHub, folks can get access those repos and do their it's like a sandbox, they can play around.
Absolutely, Sai. I think that will be helpful for the audience, surely. And the last question is on the key challenges in implementing end-to-end IAC automation. And according to you, how can DevOps teams overcome them, Sai?
Yeah, good question, Ravi. Because no matter how advanced we are going to have some challenges, right? So those challenges are very important. In my mind, there are two challenges, I would say. The first one is silos. So what I meant is, like, developers write their own Terraform, then ops managers. Like, sometimes I do wear different hats. Sometimes I will be looking at this developers on the Terraform, I'll be reviewing. So on the development side, sometimes I'm on the ops side. So when I'm on the ops side, I have my blinders, right? I just look at the operations of it. And of course, sometimes the biggest challenge is the security folks are brought into the game a little later. And once we, give the full system after developing, and they need to do their due diligence, right? And that's when they come back and tell, hey, look, these are the issues. You did not follow FedRAMP requirements or NIST requirements or whatever it is, right? There are so many regulations that we need to do. So the very word that DevSecOps, right? The security is coming upfront. We make sure that we bring the security folks upfront, understand what are the requirements, and we also work hand in glove with them, make sure right from the beginning, right? If you want to fail early, fail early.
Yeah.
Don't fail later. It is so expensive to fix that. So the biggest challenge is silos, and we bring them all together upfront, and we make that barrier, and we make as one full team. Ravi, I think that is we need to come up with some kind of uniform standards. So that's where at work I did institutionalize certain practices just to overcome this. No matter how advanced we are, we bump into issues. So standardization is something I've initiated. And what happens is it took some time, Ravi, a couple of years, but the beauty of that is it's an organic growth. And we started singing from the same sheet of music every time. We talk the same language.
Right.
And that made a lot of difference. And it's, our sailing will be very smooth, Ravi.
Absolutely, Sai. I think in this pretty short time, Sai, I think you met the objectives. I mean, we had 4 of them to demystify infrastructure as code. I think you gave a lot of insights there. You gave real world insights and examples in the book, and people can actually go sandbox in the GitHub. Also, in terms of bridge DevOps security and compliance, you gave a lot of insights. And I should say you have actually inspired the next generation of cloud innovators. So in this very short podcast on your book, I think we dealt with foundations of infrastructure as code and moved to security, compliance, and policy as code, and ended with enterprise grade automation. Sai, thank you for your time. But one question before I let you leave, Sai. I see that you are an alumni of such science of higher learning. You did your BCom back in '93, and this will be inspirational for a lot of people in India. Because people have a lot of questions, and there are a lot of young people who approach me specifically for cybersecurity training. What are the kind of certifications you actually gone through? Can you give us a gist in terms of how your journey was from a BCom to where you are as a cybersecurity expert?
Absolutely. So Ravi, that is a very interesting question. So now that I'm actually very fortunate to study in that institute, and very proud to be the alumni, Ravi, like you, of that institute. Yes, in that commerce background, there was some IT related, subjects, but the credit was about 2 points or 3 points, I don't recall. But the then Vice Chancellor, Professor Sampath, he has institutionalized certain IT related courses into the system. And that actually triggered. And if you remember the computer lab that we had in Prashanthi Nilayam, where we had this compact machines, right? They are really like a TV screen, like big bulk. And I still remember the first thing that we learned was Lotus 123 there. And that was then once we have this Excel, that was a game changer once we have this Microsoft Excel. But that's where Professor Sampath has introduced the management information systems and other very minor basic level of programming and other things from a finance background. So for us to educate. From there, I moved on to World Bank in Washington, D.C. at the headquarters. I worked about 6 years. Then, while I was working there, I did my further studies in, from Carnegie Mellon University on software engineering and, information systems. So, Ravi, to tell you some of this, your students or your colleagues who approach you, it does require a certain amount of planning and hard work from our end. And there's no rocket science, I would say. And it is pure. If you have that zeal inside and the industrious nature, you can scale up. And you can see me as an example here. Total complete background. In fact, while I was back in India, I started my cost accounting ICWA course as well. But then once I got into this, US side where I joined the World Bank, and from there, I actually did my further studies and enhanced my skill. A lot of certificates, also certification down the line, I have done, Ravi, like, be it AWS or Azure or GCP certifications. And also recently, I have done my certification in FinOps. That is also becoming an important ingredient when you plan certain things because, it's simple. At home, we do our financial planning, right? That's exactly what we carry to work and make sure that we give value to every single dollar that we are using from taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
And that is where, and also, I am a board member in, this organization or this framework called TMMI, Test Maturity Model Integration. I'm a board member and also a member in AI Consortium as a part of this NIST program. I'm an advisor there as well. So with that, Swami's grace, this all will come together and help us scale up, Ravi.
Absolutely, Sai. I think all of us wish you the very best for your book, Empowering the Future of Infrastructure with Code, Sai. I'll put some snippets across on the video before releasing it. But thanks a lot for your time, Sai. I think maybe sometime in the near future, I'll come back to you for a larger kind of podcast on a developing topic, Sai. Thanks so much for your time.
Absolutely, Ravi. It is my pleasure to be on this podcast and really appreciate your time and asking me the right questions. And you actually triggered a lot of enthusiasm this morning, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sai.
Take care. Bye bye.